Anybody else like to approach Mr. Reeser?
Name's Dan Reeser, 119 Nottingham. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that, but I'll try. You know, from the day one of design review, I sat on the charter committee that helped craft the guidelines. The mayor had asked me to do that, and I was glad to do that. One of the reasons I did that was to be able to make sure it was ultra fair. I do believe in aspects of design review. I believe specifically things like historical and downtown, absolutely. I also believe that, you know, subdivisions that are put in under certain rules and guidelines, and a lot of expense with developers, you know, set those things up. You know, and I came here tonight, you know, with, once again, not knowing whether or not I was going to speak, and not whether or not I was, but I felt that I needed to do some educating. And that's the most important aspect of this. I said from day one that if we educate everybody as to what's going on, we have the rules and the transparency so everybody knows it. You know, when Mrs. Post has a client and they want something built and something designed, you know, not every time is it specified to be in a specific city. It's maybe something they want to build sometime when they find a piece of property somewhere. So the first step isn't necessarily going to the building department or to the mayor's office and getting a checklist of things that one list fits every application, because it doesn't. What I really want to accomplish, and what I want the city to accomplish, is to have the transparency of knowing what's there, having it applied fairly, having it applied to everybody equally, and being able to go forward with good-looking buildings for investment purposes. Now, I do want to take a minute, and I want to talk about the importance that we cannot be perceived as a community to sit here and say, boy, I'm not going to Elyria, it's too tough. I'm going to go to Avon. I'm going to go to North Ridgeville. I'm going to go to Grafton. Okay? A lot of these cities have design review. It's how it's applied that differs between everybody else. You know, we talked last meeting, boy, if we had one business that didn't come here because of design review, we were going to make a change, Ms. Mitchell. Remember that? There are a number of businesses that did that with. And I don't want to really elaborate a lot on those, but I want to share a couple just so we can make sure it's clear that it did happen, it does happen. An architect firm by the name of ADA Architects was designing a retail structure over at the Chestnut Commons, between the, I believe it was between the Burger King and the car wash. If you saw the building, it was a very beautiful building. It was brick. It just was just as nice as anything over there. I spoke to the architect the other day and had a long conversation. It's unfortunate she can't be here tonight because she left, had to go to California, and the project was not going to arrive back until about 11 o'clock tonight. But the next meeting, hopefully she'll be able to come here and elaborate more. But she told me that I could say pretty well anything I wanted and it still wouldn't come close to how she really feels. They went through 6 or 7 meetings, or 5 or 6 meetings of design review. They went through back and forth. I've prepared a copy of the minutes from that planning commission meeting that I'll give to you when I'm done, that you guys can take and read before the next meeting, and it'll give you a little bit of taste of the back and forth, because there are minutes for the planning commission meetings. So you can tell the rapport back and forth, the dialogue back and forth, and that's important to the rationale of what takes place. Okay, it's important. It's not. It's an issue where we can't have a meeting and have a few people meet, or then have another meeting where more people meet, and then if they don't agree there, they go to planning commission, because, you know, quite frankly, you know, it's perceived maybe by some people that these people on these committees don't care. They do care. Every single one of them cares, or they wouldn't take their time. People have things to do. They don't have time to sit there and meet for hours on end to go over projects just because it's something they want on their resume. It doesn't happen. They don't get paid. They do it out of the spirit of working together, right? I mean, you guys all know people that are on these committees. They've got other things to do, but they do it out of the spirit of trying to make things better. There's nothing wrong with people wanting to make things better, right? Everybody that knows me knows that I have no time to do anything, but if I'm going to take the time, I'll make sure that my point's clear. But there's one example where this gal from ADA Architects sits there and says, we most definitely, in those minutes, you'll see in the minutes, the spirit of how hard they tried to work and how the mayor said, I will not approve this if this is not corrected or changed. It's not about one person's vision. It's about a committee of fellow business people, a committee of fellow neighbors looking at everybody and making sure things are done fair. And design review was put in place, the spirit of it was put in place so that if you went to build in a building on East Broad Street and you spent the money to do it the right way, and so your neighbor goes and decides to build a plywood hut, it prevents them from doing that. It also should prevent them from turning around and building $1 million building that the guy next door can't afford to do when it's an overkill, if that's what they choose to do. It needs to be even all the way around. Now, another point I want to make is we have to be real. Everybody has to be real. Mayor, you have to be real. Ms. Byington, you have to be real. You and I have never met personally. We've never talked. We've never gone over anything together. Right? Okay. When we talk about design review taking 2 days, we heard last meeting, 2 days to go through the process. An average of 2 days to go through the process. Through council members, I requested information. We received most of that information just last week, and partial. I took the time and hours over the weekend, after a football game, of course, and this weekend, and went through every single case the last 4 years. And I did the statistics. And I only went back to 2006 because as we go back, the records get sketchy and inconsistent. But I know the people that put them together probably did the best they could. 2006, there was approximately 1,466 days, 188 projects, an average of 8+ days per application. Not counting any time between meetings, strictly the time from the application to the time that was heard and approved or disapproved. In 2007, there were 1,605 days, 161 cases, an average of 10+ days per case. 2008, 1,030, 68, 15+ days on average. And in 2009, as slow as things are, 1,234 days, 73 projects, of which probably 80% of them were signs, 17+ days on average. Not 2 days. We got to be real. Okay? That's the first thing we have to do. If we need to know where we got to go, we got to be real. We also heard that we didn't know of any businesses that didn't come here because of it. That one example of the ADA Architects and those people who wanted to build this approximately, I think Mr. Laheta, was it 20,000 square feet? Something like that, 19,000 something?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, this is the proposed building that's next to Burger King?
It was the proposed building that was going to go between Burger King and the car wash.
Close to, I think it was 85 by 200.
Which is approximately 19,000 square feet.
19,000.
Right. It's going to be brick. I believe it's going to be brick construction. It was similar to the rest of the construction that was there in Chestnut Commons across the way. It was the Weston Group ADA Architects, and it was 19,360 square feet. That's what the application says. We have to be flexible. We have to allow professional architects to do their job. We have to allow them to be creative. Mrs. Post will be the first one to tell you. And I've never formally met Mrs. Post either, but she knows what she's talking about when she comes and talks about materials. It's obvious. It'd be great for her to have the opportunity to be on design. I think the most qualified people that we can get, and it doesn't matter if it's only 4 or 5 or if it's 10 or 15, the more input we get to be fair is important. It's the spirit of it. It's got to be done with the spirit of cooperation. Okay? So when we talk about, businesses, I'll give you another example. And I'm only going to do a couple of them because it doesn't need to be pounded into the ground. You guys understand that there's flaws.